The sun beat down on the cracked earth, mirroring the desolation in Ilara's heart. Her scalp, raw and exposed, burned under its unforgiving gaze, a constant reminder of the barbarity she'd endured. They had shaved her head, a final humiliating act before leaving her and her 7 children to perish in the unforgiving wilderness. Her youngest, barely a year old, whimpered weakly in her arms, his cries a testament to their shared hunger and despair. The older children, their faces streaked with dust and tears, huddled close, their wide, frightened eyes fixed on their mother. Days blurred into a grueling struggle for survival. Ilara, despite her own fading strength, forced herself to find scraps of food, to shield her children from the biting winds of the night, and to tell them stories of a better time, a time before the war had stolen everything. But hope was a dwindling ember, flickering precariously against the encroaching darkness. Miles away, in a desolate, forgotten corner of the land, lived Kyle. He was a man with nothing left to lose. The war had taken his family, his home, his will to live. He wandered aimlessly, a ghost among the ruins, his days a monotonous cycle of survival. He had long ago abandoned the idea of a future, his heart a hollowed-out cavern of grief. One sweltering afternoon, as he scoured the arid landscape for meager provisions, a faint sound carried on the wind, a child's cry, thin and desperate. Kyle, initially inclined to ignore it, found an unfamiliar pull drawing him towards the sound. He followed it, his steps leading him deeper into the parched lands. What he found shattered the remaining shards of his hardened heart. A woman, barely clinging to life, surrounded by 7 emaciated children, their eyes mirroring the fear of abandoned pups. Ilara looked up, her gaze vacant, her spirit almost extinguished. Kyle, who believed he had nothing left to give, found an unexpected wellspring of resolve. He couldn't leave them. He wouldn't. With a strength he didn't know he possessed, he helped Ilara to her feet, his hands surprisingly gentle. He gathered the children, one by one, into his meager wagon, usually reserved for his solitary foraging. The journey to Kyle's humble, dilapidated shack was slow and arduous. He shared his last scraps of food, giving the children the larger portions. He spoke little, but his actions spoke volumes. He built a fire, warmed the cold, and offered the only comfort he had, a safe, if temporary, haven. As the days turned into weeks, a fragile hope began to bloom in the desolate shack. Kyle, who had known only silence and solitude, found his home filled with the sounds of children's laughter, tentative at first, then growing bolder. He taught the older ones to fish, the younger ones to count the stars. He listened to Ilara's stories, her voice growing stronger with each passing day, and slowly, painstakingly, he began to tell his own. Ilara, witnessing Kyle's quiet devotion, the way he looked at her children as if they were his own, felt a warmth she thought she'd never experience again. He had taken them in, a man with nothing, and in doing so, he had given them everything. He had given them life, and in turn, they had given him a reason to live again. The shaved head was still a reminder of her past, but now it was also a testament to her survival, and to the extraordinary kindness of a stranger who had become their unlikely savior. As the seasons turned, the little shack, once a symbol of Kyle's isolation, became a vibrant hub of life. The children, nourished by Kyle's tireless efforts and Ilara's renewed spirit, bloomed like wildflowers after a long drought. Laughter, once a foreign sound, now echoed from dawn till dusk. Kyle taught the older boys to tend a small patch of resilient crops he'd coaxed from the stubborn earth, while Ilara showed the girls how to mend clothes with salvaged scraps and weave simple baskets from reeds found by the stream. Yet, amidst this fragile peace, the scars of the past lingered. Ilara still woke some nights, her breath catching, the phantom chill of the shaved head a stark reminder of what she'd endured. Cale, too, carried his own silent burdens, moments when his gaze would drift to the distant horizon, a flicker of profound loss in his eyes. But now, they were not alone in their burdens. They had each other, and the clamor of 7 hopeful voices filling their days. One evening, as the last rays of sun painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, Ilara found Cale sitting by the dwindling fire, his gaze lost in the embers. She sat beside him, the silence comfortable between them. "We owe you everything, Kyle," she said, her voice soft. He turned to her, his weathered face softened by the firelight. "You owe me nothing, Ilara," he replied, his voice a low rumble. "You gave me something I thought was long dead. You gave me back a reason to live." And in that shared understanding, in the quiet strength of their unlikely family, they knew that even from the deepest despair, something beautiful could rise. Their future wasn't guaranteed. The world outside was still harsh and unpredictable. But within the walls of their little shack, they had found a sanctuary built on kindness, resilience, and a love forged in the crucible of shared loss and unexpected hope. If you enjoy the story, please make sure to like and subscribe. Your support by subscribing helps us continue creating these stories. Thanks for listening.